Hello everybody, my name is KirkpattieCake. I'm an author and robot, and today we're going to talk about something that is not so much book related, but I feel like I need to talk about it. But before we get started, if you enjoy the kind of content I do on this channel, please remember to like the video, share it, subscribe, go and see more of the fun stuff we do on this channel. And if you like this channel a little bit more, consider joining the Patty Wagon by joining LBRY down in the comments below. You'll see, or in the description, you'll see a link to the submission process where here, take the prompt, write a story. It can be a partial, it can be a full, it can be a continuation, it can be something you already have that fits the prompt, whatever you want. Submit as long as it fits the criteria, and come the next month, I read all of the submissions in the first video. So maybe I'll see you there. Maybe I'll see some of your creative juices flowing. Before we get started on the main story, though, I did want to bring this up as an update. So last week you may have heard that Gina Carano was fired from Disney and released from her talent agency because of some thing that she posted on Instagram that said, "Don't demonize your neighbor for their political beliefs," and didn't pick at anybody, whatever. But she was fired from Disney Plus, not going to be in Mandalorian anymore, and dropped from her agency. Well, following that, it was probably less than 24 hours after that, I feel like, she was picked up by Ben Shapiro at the Daily Wire, creators of the Run, Hide, Fight, which I recently talked about back on Monday. I'll put a thing at the end of this video if you want to check it out. And he offered her a job where she can direct, act, and write her own movie. She can work on her own movie, and this is super important, I think, for us all to talk about. Because when Carano accepted the job, she said, "The Daily Wire is helping make one of my dreams, to develop and produce my own film, come true. I cried out and my prayer was answered. I am sending out a direct message of hope to everyone living in fear of cancellation by the totalitarian mob. I have only just begun using my voice, which is now freer than ever before, and I hope it inspires others to do the same. They can't cancel us if we don't let them." I know that there has been a lot of fear, especially in creative communities, about saying anything about, well, what if I say the wrong thing and then a mob comes and attacks my new recently released book and just destroys me? What if they start rumors about me? So I just don't want to bring any attention to myself. I want to be able to get an agent, so I don't want to say the wrong thing. If you're afraid of censorship, then you're never going to truly have your ideas, your voice, your book be the true thing that it could be. So I'm sharing this Gina Carano story specifically to inspire and let you know that if you do not let them cancel you, they cannot cancel you. Be yourself, say your thoughts, and the people will come. Be genuine. The truth is, be genuine. It's scary when you're inside of the fire, but once you get on the other side of the firewall of that mob, you'll see that you have more freedom than you ever realized. The only way that cancel culture like this has power is if you let it silence you. Once they kick so many people out of the cool club that now the cool club is the out club, guess what? Yeah, we're the powerful. So don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop your creativity, and don't let it scare you into being silent or not writing about certain ideas or not writing certain characters. And I say this after having written Dead End Drive, which has some iffy jokes in it, after having written Cain and Abel, which is going to probably get some feedback for the content in it, which I'm sure that Creatures Lie Here will get some kind of response because it talks about mental health and it talks about rape. You know, just don't censor yourself. Say what you've got to say, and isn't that why we all become creatives anyway, is we have a journey or a viewpoint that we want to share. So be bold, be creative, and you're not going to be alone. Now, the true story that I wanted to talk about today was this, because I was very disturbed when I saw it earlier. Critical race theory is coming for your dogs. Katja Gunther's The Lives and Deaths of Shelter Animals. So she wrote a 300-page book on animal shelters and animal treatment and shelter volunteers and all of that. We've seen how critical race theory and gender theory have entered other aspects and other industries and kind of corroded on the inside, and we've seen what it tries to accomplish in doing so. Well, now it's trying to go into animal shelters and open up animals to abuse because of racism. So let's get into this. So let's get into this. Arrow magazine published, until recently, the Rosenberg Roseburg, Texas pound was typical of many American shelters, killing roughly 70% of its animals. The leaders of the shelter did not see it as their responsibility to change this. Instead, staff blamed local residents for being irresponsible and failing to sterilize and make lifetime commitments to their pets. Isn't untrue. If you adopt a dog, if you adopt an animal, it is your responsibility to take care of that animal and to find it a home if you cannot take care of it. It is also your responsibility to sterilize the animal if you do not want babies or if you don't plan on breeding. I can't think of any situation except laziness where sterilization isn't done, because people are offered spay and neuterings at such a discounted price specifically to help this. And it enrages the heck out of me that we end up with so many dead animals because people will not be responsible owners. In response, the city hired a new director committed to the life-saving programs and services collectively known as the no-kill equation, which include foster care for orphaned puppies and kittens, medical treatment for sick, injured, or traumatized animals, low-cost sterilization for the pets of the poor, and behavioral training to help people overcome some of the challenges that lead them to surrender their pets in the first place. During her first year of implementation of no-kill equation, Rosenberg achieved a 97% placement rate for dogs and 90% for cats, ending the killing of almost all healthy and treatable animals. That success has continued despite the pandemic. The shelter has stayed open as essential service, and for the first time in history, it's found itself empty, having found a home or rescue group for every single animal. In 2001, I became the director of the animal shelter in Tompkins County, New York, and created the nation's first no-kill community. Hundreds of other communities have since embraced the no-kill equation. Millions of municipal shelters are now finding homes for upwards of 99% of animals, returning the term euthanasia to its dictionary definition, an act of mercy for helplessly sick or injured individuals. These communities are large and small, urban and rural, red and blue, affluent and impoverished, homogenous, and, like Rosenberg, which is 75% Latino, Black, and Asian, diverse. The results have been a 90% drop in pound killings nationwide since the 1970s. That's incredible. Despite the fact that pet ownership has doubled, the number of dogs and cats killed has gone from roughly 16 million a year to less than 1 million. It's been called the single biggest success of the modern animal protection movement. America is a nation of animal lovers. We share our homes with 60 million cats and 80 million dogs. We talk to them, keep their pictures on our phones, celebrate their birthdays, travel with them, and greet them upon coming home, even before saying hello to our spouses or our kids. We include them in holiday festivities and take time off work to care for them when they are sick. And when it is time to say goodbye, we grieve. Last year, Americans spent $99 billion on their animal companions. Spending on animals is growing 50% faster than the overall retail economy. In a national poll, 96% of Americans said that we have a moral duty to protect animals and should have strong laws to do so, while 3 out of 4 believe that it should be illegal for shelters to kill animals who are not suffering. Despite those things that separate us, Americans from all walks of life want to build a better world for animals. Yet, in her recent book, and this is the catch, The Lives and Deaths of Shelter Animals, Katja Gunther claims that dogs are being killed because of capitalism, anthropocracy, white supremacy, and patriarchy. She argues that allowing dogs to sleep inside is a privilege reserved for white and wealthy, and that policies against keeping dogs chained up in backyards are intended to oppress people of color by imposing middle-class norms of animals keeping in which companion animals are considered by imposing middle-class norms of animals keeping in which companion animals are considered family and treated accordingly, which ignores the fact that people of color are themselves trapped in poverty, may have few options for legitimate income generations, and possibly rely on their dogs for ... status. Unfortunately, Gunther's misguided book is gaining traction. Shelter director Kristen Hassan opines that Gunther gets it right in concluding that racism, classism, and the caste system are at the heart of the broken animal shelter institutions, arguing that the laws preventing mistreatment of dogs discriminates against anyone in the U.S. other than white, middle-class, and upper-class individuals. Sloan Hawes, Tess Hoop, and Kevin Morris of the University of Denver Institute of Human-Animal Connections cite the book in their proposal to relax the enforcement of animal protection laws, a proposal that threatens to reverse decades of hard-won progress. So they're arguing that you should be allowed to mistreat and abuse dogs and animals because why? Because poverty says that you should be able to do that, because poverty says that your animal should just be a tool for status, and so you should be able to beat them, to abuse them, to train them into dog fighting rinks. Look, there's no thing that says you have to keep your dog indoors. I had a neighbor who had a little dog pad, a little dog house outside for his dog to stay in because the dog wasn't allowed inside. A lot of places in Alaska have holding areas specifically for the sled dogs because you can't necessarily have 12 to 15 sled dogs in your house all the time. There's a difference, though, between the mistreatment of your animals and completely neglecting your animals, ignoring your animals, and mistreating your animals. And that has nothing to do with your race or your class. You can be poor and treat your dog just fine. How many stories have we heard about poor people or even homeless people who would feed their dog before they feed themselves? This isn't a class system issue. This is a you're a terrible person situation issue. And they're also saying that it's more likely that non-white people will mistreat their animals, so we need to remove these laws. What? Can we just acknowledge what you're saying about white people versus non-white people and caring about animals here? I'm not saying this. Gunther here has said this. The article adds, intakes reflect service area demographics, not racism. Gunther writes that because of racism, the overwhelming majority of dogs who end up in the Baldwin Park, California shelter, where she worked as a volunteer, had belonged to poor people of Asian and Latino heritage and, to a less extent, black people. But this simply reflects the demographics made up in the Baldwin Park itself. When I ran a shelter in predominantly white community, a shelter with a higher per capita intake rate than the Los Angeles County Pound system, in which Baldwin Park is a part of, most of those who surrendered their animals were white. Indeed, of all counties in the U.S. with a 90% or better placement rate, the one with the highest per capita intake, over 5 times that of Los Angeles counties, is 90% white, only 3% Latino, and less than 5% black. In other words, the ethnicity of the people who surrendered the animals to shelters is largely a function of the demographics, not the race. However, Gunther deliberately rejects objective evidence of this kind, admitting that, quote, it is not possible for me to be impartial, end quote, and I was trained in sociology, a discipline that emphasizes impartiality and the need to systemize observations and analyze in ways that distance the research from the researched. Or the researcher from the that distance the researcher from the researched. I deliberately turn away from these tendencies and instead embrace the messy possibilities of being a researcher with complex ties to the social setting I am analyzing. At best, the book presents subjective feelings, anecdotes, and even guesses as compelling evidence for its conclusions. At worst, it ignores evidence to the contrary, which is very similar to how white fragility works. It is very similar to how to be an anti-racist works, where it's all feelings, subjective feelings, anecdotes, and guesses that are completely contrary to the evidence. Gunther also stereotypes and infantilizes. Gunther also stereotypes and infantilizes people of color. Evidence shows that dogs in inner cities are neither disproportionately dangerous nor poorly treated. People in inner cities live with dogs for the same reason as suburban wealthy. They want companionship and social connection. Gunther's books perpetuate unsubstantiated prejudices about the inability of people of color to provide appropriate care for their animals, and she denies their individuality by referring to all Asians, Latinos, and black people as the collective black. In Gunther's book, moreover, white people do things. People of color have things done to them. For example, people of color who abandon their dogs in empty apartments are victims ensnared in a legal system, forced to leave their animals behind under the duress of sudden eviction or deportation or arrest. Gunther even claims that such people actually believe that what they are doing is for the best because of the constraints of their knowledge and resources, both of which are limited by the nexus of their class, status as immigrants, and ethnicity. When a Latino man on a bicycle drops a dog while escaping from a security officer after stealing a pair of jeans, she explains this away as a result of a status as marginalized. When a woman leaves her dog to die at the pound after she has finished breeding her and selling her puppies to buy drugs, it is the fault of her status as a poorly educated queer woman of color. Gunther laments that rescuers critique urban Black and Latino communities for not seeing companion animals as sufficiently part of the family and instead seeing them as resources, whether protective as for guarding or financial as for breeding and possibly fighting. She appears to be arguing that if a person of color can turn a profit or build a reputation through their animal exploitation, that excuses the animal's suffering. Even in the case of sadistic animal abuse, from a class perspective, wealthy people are believed to be too civilized to engage in barbaric activities like dogfighting, and it's no coincidence that the only affluent person who has been publicly shamed for dogfighting in the U.S., Michael Vick, is Black, newly wealthy after growing up in poverty. Dogfighting, however, is not considered barbaric because it violates the norms of wealthy people, who, after all, have historically had their own versions of animal cruelty masquerading as entertainment, such as fox hunting and pigeon shooting. Nor is dogfighting considered uncivilized because of the skin color of the organizers, many of whom are white, but because of what it does to the dog. At Michael Vick's property, investigators found decomposing dogs who died by hanging, drowning, and being slammed to death. As one of the rescuers involved wrote, "The details that got to me then and stay with me today involved the swimming pool that was used to kill some of the dogs. Jumper cables were clipped to the ears of underperforming dogs, then, just like a car, the cables were connected to the terminals of batteries before lifting and tossing the shamed dogs in the water. Most of Vick's dogs were small, 40 pounds or so, so tossing them in would have been fast and easy work for thick athletic arms. We don't know how many suffered this premeditated murder, but the damage to the pool walls tells a story. It seems that while they were scrambling to escape, they scratched and clawed at the pool liner and bit the dented aluminum sides. I wear pretty thick skin during our work with dogs, but I can't shake my mind's eye image of a little black dog splashing frantically in bloody water, screaming in pain and terror, brown eyes saucer-wide and tiny black-white toad, feet clawing at anything, desperate to get hold. This death did not come quickly. The rescuer in me keeps trying to think of a way to go back in time and somehow stop this torture and pull the little dog to safety. That, and not his skin color, is why Vick was condemned publicly, along with many others, many of them white people, who have been held accountable for harming animals. While Gunther explains away mistreatment if the perpetrator happens to be a person of color, she has plenty of harsh words for those trying to save animals. Day in and day out, rescuers and volunteers show tremendous courage and compassion when they visit their local pounds. At many high-kill shelters, they face hostile treatment from staff and endure heartbreak at seeing animals destined for lethal injection. And yet they go back again and again. Despite acknowledging these traumas, because most of the volunteers Gunther encountered were white, she accuses them of working to reinscribe hierarchies of power and status within the shelter against the non-white workers, and thus maintaining existing social inequalities between humans even as they seek to help animals. When rescuers lament the conditions of a dog with sagging belly skin, elongated nipples, and enlarged genitalia, and expresses dismay that the former owners confined their dogs outdoors or used a pit bull primarily for income generating through breeding, Gunther dismisses this criticism as the animal practices of white rescuers. On the other hand, Gunther writes that people of color should not be held responsible if they mistreat animals, including medical neglect, because that they lead precarious lives. On the other, she criticizes rescuers for using the animals as instruments for reproducing whiteness when they take the dog out of the ghetto and give it to the right kind of adopters, namely those who will treat the animal as family members and have the financial means to care for their dog at the high levels for the duration of the dog's life, for example, by providing specialty brand food, toys, and bed, and extensive veterinary care should any illness or injury incur. Rescuers and shelters have an obligation to the vulnerable animals they serve, and they can and should focus on the potential adopter's ability to provide for the animal's physical and mental health, rather than the income or skin color. Gunther suggests that rescuers and shelters are obligated to place animals in knowingly unstable situations, which she problematically equates with darker skin color, and engage in the greater harm and of racist behavior. The biggest problem in all of this is that her book is being used as a reference to push policies that will turn back the protections on animal safety and animal protections in general, to decriminalize or allow the torture and murder of animals again, saying that it is only a racist thing to want to take care of animals. So if you would like more information on this article, on these ideas, on this person, I will link this article in the description down below. It is entirely our job as humans to take care of the animals that we not only are around us, but that we choose to adopt, such as the cats and the dogs and the birds and the fish. It is our responsibilities that we accept upon taking those animals to treat them right and to not harm them, to prevent harm to them in any way that we possibly can. And so to see this kind of trash it's heartbreaking, and it needs to be pushed back again, that this is not legitimate. And it always comes out of California too, doesn't it? Just so you know, this is what we're looking at. She is a professor, an associate professor of gender studies and sexuality at the University of California, Riverside. Who would have guessed that Katja M. Gunther is a feminist and gender studies professor saying we should be abusing animals again? Are you serious? This book was published by the Stanford University Press in 2020. In case you want to take a look at it yourself, here is the Goodreads page. It can help you find where to purchase it. I'm going to try to find a place to get it where it's not, $21.49 on Kindle. But let me know what you think on this subject, and let's not let these freaks continue to push bad ideas, bad policy that are meant to harm more people, meant to harm more creatures. Oh yeah, we totally care about protecting the environment and protecting everybody's lives, but let's just remove protections from animals because this author assumes that black people hurt animals more. Sorry, no. I don't have any problems with calling this woman a loser for these opinions. It's so wrong. Anyway, those are my thoughts. That's what I think. Let me know what you think on this article. Pretty sad. Actually, very sad. But let me know what you think on the subject, on this book, on this theory of critical race theory in animal care, and taking those protections. Is it racist to have animal protections? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoy this kind of content, please like it, share it, subscribe it, watch some more at the end of this video, and if you have anything that you'd like to see me cover, also drop me a message either on Minds or Gab or just in the comments. And until next time, please have a good weekend. What a way to finish off the week with, I know. But have a good weekend, and don't die. Dear Madam Astra, that's me. We regret to inform you that on August 1st, your employer, Agatha Jane Benedict, owner of the Benedict estate, peacefully passed away in her sleep. Oh, that's so sad. Wait. Let me try that again. Oh my goodness, that's so sad. Yeah, I think I'm ready. With millions of dollars on the line and the opportunity for your every need to be taken care of for life, tell me, is there anything more valuable than that? I didn't think so. Dead End Drive is a dark comedy novel that makes 3 promises. 1, an illustrious estate in Louisiana. 2, an opulent dinner affair for all in attendance. And 3, and most importantly of all, lots and lots of competitive murder. So if you're looking for a cozy book to settle in with for the spooky season, and just one last time for good measure, Katja Gunther, you are a nutcase. Well, I see you. You are actively advocating for harming animals and saying that your theories are necessary for anybody working in animal shelters. You're a nutcase and a psychopath.